Hey, good morning and welcome to the first episode of Faith, Hope, and Friends. And
Good
I am your host,
morning.
Renee and Marvena.
Good
Good morning to
morning.
you. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm a little nervous.
Yeah,
First time out here, but
right.
have you had your coffee? I know you said you needed coffee before we got started. There
On
it is.
deck.
There it is. Oh gosh, well, yeah, we just felt this was a really important time to start a podcast. I know you and I have been talking about it for how long now?
I know,
It's
years, right? But then
yeah,
things happen, right? It's not right away. God puts the seed there, you pray on it a little bit. We're kind of nervous. So I think that was a little bit of it. But hey, we're here today. It's all good, right?
that's right. That's right. Yeah, he planted the seed and probably wanted us to harvest it long before. But it's funny, work got in the way. We work together. So
Yeah.
work gets in the way because we're both busy. Family gets in the way. We've
Yep.
got things to do. And then I found that closer it got to it, I had to set up upstairs because of some issues downstairs. But then I started thinking, oh, I don't like the sound of my voice.
All right.
When I hear it played back to me. And then I started looking, it's like, I've always had, like, they call them Betty Davis eyes, right?
Okay.
And so I had these, so I thought, well, maybe if I open them wider. And then I looked like
I'm the opposite. Mine are huge. It balances out.
oh my goodness. So yeah, so here we are, and I think we're just wanting to have some really honest conversations about faith.
Yeah. Yep. Just some honest conversation, nothing too heavy but just again, honest conversation, which is, what I think I like the dynamic between us anyway. That's what, we seem to do a lot.
Yeah. We don't take ourselves too seriously.
No.
And
yeah, we should probably take ourselves a little more seriously, but hey,
Good point. Yeah. So it's I think, I heard a pastor say one time, there's nothing I can do to convince you to have faith in God, but what I can do is share what God has done for me.
Yes.
And then you make your own decision from there. So that's what we want to do, is just kind of share what God has done for us in our lives, in our faith journeys.
Mm-hmm.
And, hopefully it'll help somebody to realize that I think for myself, faith has been the easiest thing I've ever done and the hardest thing I've ever done.
I agree.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I totally agree.
Yeah. So, so I think it's just really, it's going to be a good vehicle for us to just kind of share our hearts on where we are in our faith journeys.
Yes.
So,
and hopefully to encourage others. I mean, I think, and we'll get into this a little deeper in our podcast, but just, the conversations you and I have had has been so encouraging to me, on a lot of different occasions. And so I think conversation is good, not having to be in this rigid place where people feel, judged or, just to have conversation. We learn a lot through just conversation.
Right. And some of our conversations, you and I, we've talked about how our failures in faith.
Yes.
It's not that we're trying to come to each other and say, this is, we've got it all figured out.
Right.
There have been many times I've come to you and I've gone, oh man, I just blew it.
Yeah. And I've come to you and I'm like, help me.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
You're right.
So, yeah.
It's so true. And I think that's the thing, is sometimes as Christians, we get we think we have to be perfect, and it's kind of like this double-edged sword, because on the one hand you're like, I know God doesn't require me to be perfect, but then you still feel like, but I gotta be perfect, you know what I'm saying? It's like this in the back of your mind thing. And again, through our conversations, it has helped me to come to the place a lot of times where, even though I knew it in my head, my heart needed to feel like, okay, you messed up. Like, it's not the end of the world. God knows you. God knows your heart. He knows how he made you. And he did not make you a perfect being, And so,
Yeah. We always think we have to prove ourselves. And it's like, it's not
we
going to happen.
do.
Yeah,
We
it's not going to
do.
happen.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
That's right. Well, we've talked about how we would come to each other's desks. Goes, tell everybody how we met. I think maybe that's kind of a fun story.
Okay, look, now, if I can quite remember, because it's been a little while, but I remember, so of course we worked together. That's how we met, right? And you happen to be like the resident, what's the word?
Idiot?
No. No, the resident, not jokester, but you had a way of just being able to talk to people, make them feel welcome. Retirement parties, you were like the person, right? And so I remember hearing of you and knowing of who you are, but I hadn't met you yet. And so through work, um, you were working in IT, and so through work, it's how I had to come over, my job duties, come over, talk to you. And it seems like once we clicked.
Yeah.
Well, now I will say, I did think you were a little bit mean at first when I first saw you, because you're always very welcoming, but I think the expression on your face was just like, now I know you were in thought. But before I was like, okay, I don't know, like, is she cool or not? Once I got to be honest, she's super fun. And then we just kicked it off from then. And then once we shared our faith with each other, like, we connected on that level, and it's just been upstream from then. Now, do you remember a different story of us?
No, I think I remember us meeting. Was it so we work in a large agency, and I think you were you working for my brother-in-law at that time? And there's no
Actually,
nepotism here.
no.
No nepotism. He didn't hire me, so
I was not, but I was working with your brother-in-law. I was working for, I came on as, I was like the receptionist of the office.
Okay.
Is how I got to know your brother-in-law. And then from there, then I, worked for the chief of enforcement. And then we really got to know each other. So yeah, we worked in the same area, and we worked together quite a bit. Yes.
Right. And I remember I had to deliver reports to you. And then we started sharing stories. I was helping out with my elderly aunt and uncle at the time. And so things would happen that would go, oh my goodness, I got to tell somebody. And then it was like, I think I'll tell Marvena. And and then you had some stories about your family and some of your Christmas gatherings. And it was like, I think we just, really enjoyed the humor of it all.
Yes.
And then here you see my brother-in-law trotting over to say, Renee, are you done? Do you have anything else to do? Yeah.
We had a lot of those days, right? But we were very productive. I will say that, right?
We were. Yes. Yes. We got it done.
And I think that's been, like probably over, well over 15 years.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, right?
Yeah. And there are times that we don't see each other for months. I mean, we work in the same place. It's a huge place. So, but there are times when it's like, I just say to myself, I'm in the middle of something. I'll go, I'm just going to talk to Marvena, because it's been a while. So, and then, And then I feel bad because your people are walking by going, I just like a moment with Mom. It's like, you get your time, just, just back off. You'll get your time.
Yeah, we are, and we always have great talks, right? We pick up like we never like we never left off, you know what I'm saying? Or where we pick up where we left off. That's better. We pick up where we left off. And I do in our family stories, and that's the thing, and I absolutely love and adore my family.
Mm-hmm.
But we all have those family things, right?
Yeah.
And so it's great to be able to talk with someone that, because a lot of our experiences with family, we have a lot in common as well, right? And we've learned that through a lot of our conversations. So it's wonderful though to be able to say to someone, okay, girl, this is what happened this weekend.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? And and then you're like, well, this is what happened to me this weekend with just family things.
Yeah.
But again, it's those family stories again have given me encouragement, because some are funny, some are heart-wrenching, you know what I'm saying? Some have been like, okay, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this, or this is what has happened. So the connection we have had, I really thank God for, and I really know that it's not happenstance that he connected us. Like your screenplays, I used to read those. It would take me a while to do it, but I would read it. And so your books, I mean, you know what I'm saying? There's so many things that we've shared. And as I'm thinking about it now, like I knew it, but I'm thinking about all the stuff, and I'm just really thankful.
Yeah.
Just really thankful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know when I've asked you've read my books. Well, I know that you've used it as a coffee.
Never. Never.
I've seen the ring on my book. I know.
That is not the truth.
But you'd see me coming and you'd be going, try to ditch out. It's like,
never.
Yeah.
I'm just more of an audio person now, but I would purchase the book, right?
That's true. That is true.
Then you're like, so Marvena, what chapter are you on? So this is what happened. I started chapter 2, but I'm going to get back to it. And I did.
Oh my goodness. Yes, it has been a fun friendship. That's for sure.
It has.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So I think it's interesting too, our different faith journeys, how our faith journeys began.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was raised in church, always been in church all my life. I think there was a period of, I'm 65 years old now. And it's I think there was a period of maybe 2 years where I decided, I need Sundays for myself, and that, but other than that, I've been in church every Sunday, most of my life, all of my life. And even Wednesday night services, And when I was a kid, it was Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. And so you were in church all the time. So that's how my faith journey began.
All the time.
Yeah, you know that better than I do. Yeah. Oh gosh. So yeah. So when did yours begin? Where was your faith journey?
So I think so I actually joined church like around age 13.
Okay.
My mom and my grandmother and my maternal grandmother. My fraternal grandmother, she's always been in church. Growing up, my family my faith journey has been a little colorful, if you would like to say, I guess. So as a child, I I remember watching my grandmother go to church.
Mhm.
And I grew up in the Nation of Islam for a period of time, probably from maybe about age 5 to about 11 or 12.
Mhm.
And so, but I would always see my grandmother going to church, in her white, like her first Sundays, and she's all white with her gloves, and she was raised Baptist. So, and she always had this joy about her. And I always wondered, like, that I believe that is where the seed was planted for me to get to know who Jesus was. I always wondered, who is this Jesus? Like, she was the nicest, kindest lady, always loved everybody, even, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know if they deserve that, but she had the love of Christ, so she knew it wasn't about what we deserve. But so that's how my faith journey started. So once we joined our church. From then on, it was every Sunday we were in church, we were in every ministry, we went to every program. It was Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening,
Yeah.
all of that. And then I remember even when I got my first job, and I'm like, okay, well, clearly I work late on Saturdays, I'm not going to be able to get up and go to church. Nope, rule of the house. I don't care how late you get in here, you're going to make it to church. And I will say, as I've grown up, I didn't appreciate it when I was younger. Now, I don't appreciate everything from my younger years. However, I do believe that there was a foundation instilled in me, and it helped me as I became an adult to decipher things. You know what I'm saying? I come from a very traditional background. And I think for a lot of my life, I have fought tradition. And there's good and bad with that. There's good and bad with traditions. I do believe that there is a place for traditions, and there is a purpose, but then it also gets into this place where we're just ritually doing things,
Right.
And so anyway, so around about the age of 13 or so, started going to church, and we were very engrossed in it. And then I kind of stepped away in my younger years, like around my 20-ish. And then after my husband and I got together and got married, then I went back to church. And I think that was the first time I actually went back on my terms, as far as like I felt a drawing, I felt God pulling me before I went, but it was because I had no choice.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that I learned in that space as well. But I think when I could really pinpoint a turn in my faith and me really holding on to God for myself is when I came back to Christ, and after I had gotten older. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, and I know there are pros and cons for both of us, as far as you coming in a little bit later in life and me being born and basically raised in it. I think the pro for me was this kind of sounds weird, I was always afraid of God. So that kept me from doing a lot of things that probably were, available to me at that time.
Okay.
But the con was that when you're raised in it, you hear it so much. And sometimes the stories when you're a kid aren't explained.
Correct.
I think of a song we used to sing in children's church, the foolish man built his house upon the sand.
Uh-huh.
Did you hear that one?
I have.
And then when the rains came down, his house went flat. And then
Yes.
the wise man built his house upon the rock. I just thought they're talking about lousy contractors. I didn't know, but and then the next verse was, so build your house on the Lord Jesus Christ. but it was like, okay, they didn't connect that to him being the rock. So I think a lot of times there wasn't a lot of explanation.
Yes.
So it just became, oh, I know all the stories, so that makes it a good faith foundation. And that's true. There was a foundation there, but I think it needed to be developed a little bit more, you know? So
yeah, and I would agree with you there, because I do remember when I joined church. So at 13, you have a lot of youth that have been raised in church as you were. They were born into it. This is, they've been from children's church all the way up. So I do think when I joined church, I felt a little bit lost, because it was almost like you were expected to know these stories and to know these certain things, and I did not know them, right? And so I think as sometimes coming up in church as young people, things are just kind of thrown at you and not really explained. I think we're doing a much better job of it now. And I think it's part of it is just a generational thing, and the way that we do church and all of that. Now I do think that things are being broken down at a younger age. But I agree with you that could be a con, because you don't really know why you believe what you believe. You just know this is it.
Yeah.
I do think that you're afraid of God for a long time,
Yeah.
And there does need to be a sense of reverence there, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I do think sometimes the fear stops us and as we get older and we really get to know Christ for ourselves, then we understand that even though there's a fear, it's a good fear, but not to the point to where you won't come to him, when you mess up, or when you think you messed up, or when you think you're not in a place you're supposed to be.
Right.
Sometimes that fear prevents you from coming to him, and that's the exact time you should be coming to him.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Con. What about the pro? What is your pro?
Like I said, I think it just gave me a healthy fear of God, because like you say, it's, I think we've transitioned from when I was young, and my grandpa was a Pentecostal pastor. And God was just like the big guy that was going to drop the hammer, so you were afraid, and you served him basically out of fear.
Yeah.
But I think we've transitioned now. We've gone a little too far to the other side, where it's God is love, and God, and that's true. But like you say, there has to be that balance where you understand that he's a holy God.
He's a holy God.
And and he has expectations for us in order to have relationship with him. And I think that's part of it too, is they didn't really teach relationship when I was growing up.
Right.
It's only been, since I've been an adult, where it's like, okay, we really are in relationship with God. It's not this guy saying, do this, do that, do that.
Right.
Or it's not a guy going, whatever feels good, and then I'll forgive you,
Right.
So there's a real balance, and I think that's what that wasn't something we were taught. But I think really it sounds bad, but I think that was the pro, is that there was a healthy fear.
Yes. Okay.
So that I didn't.
And I could see that.
Yeah. And I think I've told you this before. I was raised, my grandpa was Pentecostal, and there were certain things you did not do. You did not go to the theater, because if you were to drop dead in the theater, sorry, you don't have your ticket to heaven,
Yeah, got it. Okay.
And so I think I was 49 years old when I went to my first movie. And you have to be careful what you see, it was just, so ingrained, the do's and the don'ts, or, that were man-made, really,
Yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I still had that healthy fear,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny how, and I know we've talked about our backgrounds before, but hearing it again, it's funny that I never picked that up with you. Like, as far as your background, right? A lot of times when you meet people that have come from a stringent background like that, it's very hard for them to break it, like, because it's so, like you said, it's so ingrained in them. And it becomes a part of who they are, right? Even in, in their spiritual walk, all of that. I would have never guessed that, though, from you, because you've never been like uptight uh, or anything like that. So even hearing again your background, um, it not that it amazes me, but I can totally see where your relationship with Christ has, like, it's been your relationship. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if I'm explaining myself correctly. Remember, these is how our talks always go, right?
Yeah.
um, But a lot of times you can see that on people. You can see that. And I never picked that up, I guess is what I'm really trying to say, is I never picked that up from you. From all of our conversations that we've ever had, it's never come from a judgmental place or you must do this type of place. So yeah. I mean, that's amazing that you were brought up that way, but your path was just totally different that you took.
Yeah, and I think it was probably because for me, it just felt hard, like you say, where you have to be within this very rigid um, guideline. And so it's kind of like, well, I don't want to share my faith because people don't want to do that. I mean, I'm having a hard time even doing that. So
Right.
But I went to I had to go to counseling for about 4 years. Some
Okay.
just difficulties with past. I grew up in a dysfunctional, abusive home, so I had
Okay.
gone to counseling. And
Okay.
I was thinking about writing my book at that time, and I was just really agonizing over, is this what God wants me to do? And so I went to this counselor. I was talking to her one day and I said, I'm so afraid. And she says, how do you picture God? And it's like, okay, well, I had to sit back and I said, okay, well, I said, it reminds me of you. And I've never been stopped for a drunk driving. Don't worry.
Okay.
Although it wasn't a car accident.
Sure, you haven't.
Never. But I was in a car accident once where the policeman made me walk the white line. Don't know why.
Okay.
Don't know why.
Okay.
In the middle of the day, I had no clue. But
Okay.
I said, that's how God feels like to me. It's like you have to walk that line. And if you don't, if you falter, then there's going to be a consequence. And so it's always like, okay, touch your nose. It's like, oh, you're just praying, please, God, don't let me hit my forehead instead of my nose. And I felt like that's who God was, is that if you didn't do it right, then there were going to be consequences. And she really helped me to realize, she goes, you know what? God didn't give you a line to walk. He gave you this platform. And whenever you walk too close to the edge, don't you think he loves you enough to say, you need to come back this way? And that really helped me to understand that God was not as rigid as I had painted him for so many years. And that he was a gracious God and a merciful God. And I think Senior Glenn Cole here in Sacramento, I remember sitting one of the first services I sat in with him. He talked about God as merciful. And that's what kind of opened it up for me, where I wasn't, I felt like I could share my faith more. Okay. Because it was a doable thing. As before, it was like, I'm not going to tell anybody about that because look how miserable I am. Okay. Why would they want to follow a God that makes me miserable? Right. So I hid my misery well, apparently.
Right. Wow. Yeah. And I think that happens quite a bit. I think a lot of people do. we miss the freedom part that we have
Right.
in Christ. You know, there truly is a freedom. And when you get to that point, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to help, people not be in that place where you're so afraid or you're imprisoned.
Right. By your faith.
By your faith.
Yeah.
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 Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I going back a little bit to being raised in church, I used to teach children's church when I was like in my 20s.
Okay.
And talking about how you learn things in church and nothing's really explained.
Yes.
I remember a story where I was teaching children's church, and I always tried to make it fun for the kids. We had a very small church. So we maybe had 10, 12, 15 kids in children's church, but I always tried to make it fun.
Okay.
So one Sunday I decided I got my chef's hat, right? And I made a mustache and I
Of
had an
course you did.
apron on and I was Chef Luigi. And so I came to talk to the kids about how God made them, right? And so I thought, well, let's just demonstrate that. So I got some little canned biscuits and we made crusts for pizza.
Okay.
And I was telling the kids, and then God, he shapes you the way he wants you. And then he puts a little bit of something special in. So I'm putting the pizza sauce in, right? And then we put the toppings on and then we baked it and the kids got to eat their pizza, hopefully understanding that God made us each very special, right?
Yes.
So it was that night, that Sunday night in service, Mrs. Friels came to me, and Mrs. Friels was probably about 100 years old.
Okay.
God bless this woman. She brought her little great grandson to church every Sunday. Little Mike, I'll never forget him. And she stopped me Sunday night and she says, "Can I ask you a question? What did you teach in children's church today?" And I says, "Well, I talked about, how God makes us special." And, I tried to explain it to her. I thought, uh-oh, what did I do wrong? and she says, "Oh, well, Mike came home and he believes that God put pizza sauce in us all."
Like, what are you learning in that class?
I know. What heresy are you teaching my child? Yeah, so anyway, that was just a funny story of how you just kind of, I wonder how many kids are on their faith journey going, "No, I remember what you told us."
But I think that is one of the things that really drawn me to you. You're a great storyteller. So, which is why you were in great demand for all of the retirement parties, because you're a great MC, you're a great storyteller. But I do think that although some of them may feel that they are filled with pizza sauce, which implies they're not, it's probably one of those life lessons that has stuck with them because it's applicable. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's broken down to where we can understand it. And I think that sometimes we sit in church and we act as if we can understand what is being said, and we can't, and we don't. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a wonderful illustration of how, again, just conversating, just in your regular conversation, we can still get our point across,
Right. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So, I am sure you have a lot of stories. I'm sure we are going to be in store for a lot of illustrations through stories that you have to share.
Yeah, that was not my only time where it was but we did try to teach through example and illustration. Yeah. So yeah, but like you said, sometimes they may be on a little awry. Oh gosh.
Yep.
Well, I think that's that kind of explains who we are, right? And, and what we're doing and why we're doing this. So hopefully it encourages some people to listen and see, find out what we're all about in our faith walks. And So I had asked you prior to meeting if you had any favorite faith scriptures that you wanted to share. Do you have anything that kind of defines what faith is for you?
I do.
Okay.
So my favorite faith scripture is Jeremiah 29:11.
Mhm.
And so um um you know, I gotta write this stuff down these days. So I'm gonna Marvena, you're all over the place here. I'm sorry. So I want to read it though from the message version of it,
Mhm.
because it really gets to what I believe. Let me back up. It really gets to what has carried me, my kind of through, my
Mhm.
faith foundation, and
Mhm.
it keeps me going back to, okay, God, I know you got it. So Jeremiah 29:11 says, and this is the message version, and this is God saying, I know what I'm doing. I have it all planned out, plans to take care of you, not to abandon you, plans to give you the future you hope for.
Mm.
And so that has been a scripture that has taken me through many, like, okay, God, I know you here, but it feels kind of iffy right now.
Yeah.
But God's like, I know what I'm doing.
Yes.
Just rest in me. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's mine. What about you?
Well, mine, I actually came up with two that really have
Okay.
kind of stuck with me over the years. And the first one is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. And I'm like you, I had to write it down because my memory is shot at this point. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him and he will direct your paths.
Yes.
And so that's to me, that's kind of it's kind of a selfish thing because it's like, okay, it takes a lot off of me. All I have to do is try to walk it the best I can, try to walk with him in what he's asked me to do. And then the second one is 2 Corinthians 12:9, where it says, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. And that to me is encouraging because it's like we've said, we're weak. We're not going to get it right. And the fact that he's saying, hey, I can take that and I can work through you to make it better.
Yes.
And so that both of those scriptures kind of speak to me. So
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we feel the same way about, about the love of Christ.
Mhm.
And his ability to take us through, he's there to support us in our every need, our every want, our every desire. He's there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. Well, I think this podcast is going to be fun. I think it's going to be inspirational, hopefully. And like,
hopefully that's the goal.
I think entertaining is a given, so we don't have to worry about that piece of it.
Well, we think we're entertaining. I don't know about other people, but
people will be tuning in going, you got to see these girls. They're funny.
Look at the mess they are today. That's all right. We're God's mess, right?
That's right. And we're going to give them hope that,
Yes. Right. That's right.
Oh my gosh. So, well, let's we can go ahead, I guess, and wrap this one up and
yes, until our next time.
Yeah. And I just want to say I really appreciate your friendship and it's been a real blessing in my life. And so
mine as well.
Yeah.
Mine as well. I'm equally as grateful and thankful. I really am. And I thank you for I know when we first started talking about, podcasts or doing something, I'm like, yeah, Renee, I don't know about that. Like, it seems like I like to talk and stuff, but I really don't. And then See that look right there? That's
Yeah.
exactly what you gave me. Like, yeah, right. But I do. I appreciate our friendship so much, and I'm so thankful for our friendship. I thank you for, for being my friend, for being a listening ear for me through a lot of life's issues. I really thank God for those relationships that He's given me
Yeah.
with people such as yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you said it earlier. He gives us people to walk this out with,
Yeah.
and so we're discussing faith that
Yes.
brings hope, and we're doing it with friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yay.
Well, until next time, Renee.
All right. And I just want to say, hey, subscribe to our channel. We hope to be bringing some really important and valuable information.
Yes.
And then go to your favorite podcast app and subscribe there. And if you go to Apple Podcasts, you can certainly give us a review and a 5-star rating. We would really appreciate that. Whether you believe it or not, just give us the 5 stars.
And be kind in your reviews.
That's right. Jesus, we want you to be kind. All right. Well, until next time.
Until next time.
All right. We will talk soon. Okay.
All right.
Okay. See ya.